All right. Jeremiah, Angelina, Elements Tree Service. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, welcome. Let's see. What do I know about you so far? You guys do tree work. Mm-hmm. That's it. So how long have you been in business?
Been in business for about 6 years now, in the industry for 18, and started right out of high school.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so what brought you to the whole idea of let's start my own tree service? Maybe what were you doing at the time, and what was kind of the spark? Because usually when somebody's starting a business, it's a little bit of an asinine, insane thing to do.
There is a little bit of a story about that.
Well, we're here to tell it.
So I was working for this company in Tuolumne County. That's in Sonora. And I was working with them for about 4 years. I was very dedicated to the company. And at the 3-year mark of working for this company, I decided that I wanted to get my own license. I went through the whole process, got my state license, got all certified, got my own insurance, all that good stuff. And at this time, I was very clear with my employer of what I was doing.
Right.
And I had some thought to myself about getting a little bit more pay from my employer, just based off of my credentials at that time.
Right.
And staying dedicated to his company and just subcontracting out with his company. I offered this idea to my employer, and he fired me.
It's it happened a million times around this planet, you know?
Yeah. So based off of this, it lit a fire.
Right.
And I went running, and I had $300 to my name. I had just moved into a new place, so I spent all my savings, and I didn't have any time to waste, and I just started on my own.
I love that.
And that was 6 years ago.
So
excuse me. That would have
been a little more than 6.
No, that was about 5.5 years ago.
Got it.
Yep.
And you're speaking of license, is that like an arborist? What kind of license is that?
It's your state contractor's license. It's to operate a company in
California. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're dead in the water because you got fired because you asked for a raise, basically.
Yeah.
And did you have your license already by that time? Or was it in the works? Okay.
I already had my license by that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what sort of emotions are you going through at that point? You're like, well, I got this at least piece in place, so I'm good to go? Or was it
I was definitely frustrated at the time because I had given a lot of my energy and efforts towards this company. And it's interesting in the tree industry world because there's a lot of competition, a lot of hotheads, and you got to find a balance in between all that, because especially if you're customer based and you work a lot of residential, some of these companies, they do big contracts and work for PG&E, so they don't really deal with customers on a daily basis.
Right. They just have the fat contract that they're fulfilling.
Exactly.
And it just keeps coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we deal with a lot of customers, so we try to keep a cool head. And, but at the time I was frustrated and I was a little bit nervous. I didn't have my name out there. I had my name out there with the company that I worked for. A lot of people knew me through then. But so I hustled. Coincidentally, I met a guy who my dog attacked his dog, and
this is perfect.
It's interesting because so my dog attacked his dog. I ended up with a vet bill, and because I paid that vet bill, he informed me that he does business cards and signs, for trucks and whatnot.
Okay. He's like a swag guy.
Yeah, it was like a swag guy.
Yeah.
Yep. So he gave me 1,000 business cards for free with 4 magnets for my truck. And he helped me create my logo at the time, which was just off a line. I didn't have anything legitimate at the time, but, I just found some stuff offline, and we printed it out and put it on some magnets. And
was that this current logo and everything?
Nope.
Okay. That was just some generic.
Some generic stuff off the line. Yeah.
You're like, good, Fido, good.
But
really, don't.
It was a good situation. He honored the fact that I, took care of his vet bill and didn't run away from it. And this was right after I lost my job, so I had to hustle to come up with the money to take care of his dog.
Right.
And that's kind of what got me off the ground. I put my business cards out wherever I could, and I had my signs on my truck, and I would park my truck in places where it was kind of advertising, and it was just a little Toyota pickup truck. I didn't have much.
Right.
But it was what I had, so I made it work.
Right. So now you're telling all your friends and family that you have your own tree business now. You're handing out business cards to people. Are you door knocking?
I didn't do much door knocking. It was over there in Tuolumne County, Sonora area, Twain Harte. It was a small town.
Right.
Everyone knows everybody.
Right.
And the word got around pretty quick, and we made a really good name for ourselves in a short period of time. And
okay, so at the time and now, a lot of residential work, or do you do like all residential?
It was all residential
at the time, and then is it still currently?
As of right now, yes.
Okay.
We'll take commercial jobs, but just mostly for local commercial buildings. Nothing out of the norm.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then obviously, so you have to be really good at customer service, which you already touched upon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I also find it's interesting that you guys have blue shirts.
That was my idea.
Yeah?
Yeah. It's one of my favorite colors. It was different. You see a lot of guys out there in orange and yellow, and I like the blue. It's bright, stands out. You can see it easy on the ground.
But it's welcoming. Yeah. It's very gentle.
Oh, thank you.
You know what I mean?
That's kind of what I was going for too. It's nothing. It's nothing bright. I find the orange and yellow is a little obnoxious.
Yeah. Well, and it looks very generic too. Like, hey, we're worker people. Here's our bright colors.
Right.
But the blue is kind of like, hey, who's that? That's kind of.
It's a little more personal.
Like Smurf crew.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like at worst.
We're the blue crew.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. I like that. All right. And so how long were you operating in Tuolumne County before you came up here?
5 years.
Okay.
Well, no, 4.5 years.
Okay.
Excuse me, because we've been here for about a year now.
Okay.
Yeah, Nevada and Placer County.
Got it.
Yeah.
And okay, so if you've been in business for about 5 years, that's a solid amount of time to have a lot of changes and a lot of improvements inside your business. So what were some of the initial or first problems that you had that you think when you unclogged them, like really opened up just more good things for you?
I would say, gosh, there's so much to it because
I know, like 5 years, like a lot can happen.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to it because, it tests you on so many personal levels. Because especially if you're dedicated and you find a lot of passion in the work that you do. And for me, I'm very particular. So I really like to do a good job for our customers, and I really try to make sure that at the end of the day, our customers are happy.
Right.
Finding guys that have that same mentality,
right,
it can be difficult.
Right.
So I think that.
So do you have to go through a learning curve with hiring?
You do.
Got it.
Yeah, for sure, because people don't automatically know exactly what you want. So learning steps throughout the years of being in business as far as communication and coming up with new ideas on how to train our guys, and being open to new ideas and not just solely set on my ideas, because everyone has good ideas as well. And being open to all that is, it really helps out.
Right.
Yeah.
So you answered a hiring question with communication and openness.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we've had that theme come up a lot in our episodes. Like, what have you learned? Like, I just had to learn how to be open. It's like, wow. It's like everybody's saying that. I wonder if there's something there. It's like, I think there is.
There definitely is, yeah. It was, a lot of times it was just Angelina and I.
Right.
When we couldn't find, good employees, it was Angelina and I, and without Angelina's help, I don't think our business would be where it's at, because it's not a one-man job.
Right.
It can be, but I'd be turning down a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? So, teaching Angelina how to properly run the ropes and do the rigging and run the chipper and the chainsaw and fall trees and all that good stuff.
So you're doing every damn thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely don't do the climbing.
Right.
I do all the groundwork.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I try to help out with paperwork and bills and all the above. But
Taxes.
yeah, all of the above. Jeremiah deals with the customers. I deal with the groundwork and bookkeeping.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll give you each a turn. What do you think your main strength is, just as you contribute to the business? Maybe not specifically as a tree service. I mean, you could answer it that way, but I'm just thinking in general as a partnership. What are your strengths that you think you're contributing that are different from her strengths?
That's a good question. I would say my knowledge base within the tree industry is definitely one that goes a long way because, like I said, I've been doing it for 18 years. It's all I know. It's what I love to do.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much involved in keeping everybody safe as well as myself and making sure that the customers are happy and finding a good balance between what's right for the trees and what's right for the customer.
Right. So you're the expert.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I had a lot of time, a lot of good experience, dealing with customers because when I worked for other companies, I'd run the crew. I'd deal with the customers. I'd make sure the job got done right.
Right.
And made sure that the customer was happy at the end of the day. I did that working for the company. So it was something that I kind of picked up along the way. And I enjoy doing it. So it makes it easy for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So expertise mixed with passion.
Yep. And figuring out the balance between all that.
Determination.
Definitely determination.
Right. Do you feel like you're the driving force moving forward? Yeah. This is an interesting topic that I'd like to talk about. But before we get too far, I want her to answer and have her answer what she thinks her strengths are that she contributes to the business.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know.
Simple stuff, personality stuff.
I don't know. I just try to do the best I can.
Yeah. Well, that's a damn good start.
Yeah. No kidding.
I always show up if I need to show up.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm pretty good with the support. If he needs to get things done, I'm very flexible on whatever he needs and what the business needs or what the employees need. I really try to, just get done whatever he needs to get done.
I feel like I'm making an assumption here, but I'm assuming as he's pushing forward, you're doing a lot of organizing and, what would you say? Or situating. And checking, verifying information. Like, yes, that is good to go.
Not really. He's more of takes control of the business. I just follow along with whatever he needs.
Right.
So, with organization, I'm not very organized, but I'll come in.
You're very dedicated.
Yeah, dedication is really what it is.
Yeah, I heard the word support too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very supportive.
Yeah. I just try to run behind and see whatever he needs for the business. And that's just basically, I just try to pick up all the little pieces behind.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. Because I always think about it like somebody's dynamiting, like you're making a tunnel together, somebody's dynamiting and somebody's moving the rocks.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
That is a good way.
That's where I was trying to go with the organizing thing, but sometimes it's not organizing. Sometimes it's just like clearing them out.
It's just running behind.
Yeah. It's just like, well, you blasted, so I'm going to take care of the rocks.
And following the paperwork and trying to keep up with that. And then also trying to be at the job site and trying to follow through with the phone calls that needed to be returned and the bills that needed to be paid and trying to just kind of, I guess, like you said.
Yeah. A lot of little pieces that are important too.
Yep.
Yeah.
We're very team oriented. We get along great. Very rarely do we get annoyed with each other, but most of the time we're a great teamwork and we have a lot of fun and we love working together. It's great. I would love being out on the job site much more so than doing paperwork. So I mostly take that if I can. Yeah.
Right.
But that's about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say I'm a little, if I'm the drive, then she's the heart, so she's more of the compassionate type and she kind of keeps, certain levels of the company and the idea of the company on a compassionate level compared to strictly being, kind of hard forced all the time.
Well, I count that as organization too, right? Because you're organizing aspects of the business, actually. Like, because if you're focused on the heart of the business, you're actually organizing where the focus is, right? Does that make sense?
Yes. And sometimes that could be hard to see too, being so driven and always focused on getting the work coming in and making sure to deal with all the customers. And a lot of that time I can overlook things like that. Whereas, she's making sure that we have all of our PPE and having, anything that our employees need, making sure that all of our safety kits are in.
That's a big deal for your business.
It really is, because there's a lot of that time I don't think about it. And I'm focused on making sure my guys are employed, because making sure that we have the work coming in and all that good stuff. So,
do you have any general philosophy that you like? Now you're the employer, you're not the employee, and you've been an employee before. Is there anything that you are conscious about with your employees that you try to implement because of what maybe you did or didn't have happen to you as an employee? Like, has that helped? Did that experience form you at all?
Yes, actually it did, because I learned a lot of ways that I don't want to be working for different companies. A lot of times I was paid under the table, and we don't like to do that with our employees because they can't really set themselves up for the future. So we do our best to run everything straight across the board, making sure that they, are getting paid what they deserve to get paid, and making sure they get, tips and bonuses and all that good stuff here and there. We do our best to show our appreciation for our employees. At the end of the year, we have our company appreciation dinner.
Nice.
And then they get a bonus on top of that with a week paid vacation. So it's as long as they're dedicated to the company, we show our appreciation in ways that other companies didn't do for me. And it's kind of a win-win situation because they know that they are being appreciated, and we show them throughout the year too, little tips here and there. We help them out with their boots and their gear. And, it's just kind of a give and take relationship, in it's like I said, it's a kind of a fine line because, you get those guys that come in that kind of just want to take advantage of that. And you get those other ones that really do have the heart and dedication, and they love the job. They love being with us because, we show them that we do care about them. And a lot of times in my past working for companies, they didn't see that they were all about the money. Right. And of course we're trying to make
their money.
Well, their money. Yeah. We're trying to make a living too. And of course we got to make money to come in, to provide all this for our employees. But, we're not afraid to give back.
Well, so, one bullet point that I'm going to remember is, that I've had, it's a bit of advice that I've heard about hiring, which is offer something great, but ask for something great.
Exactly.
Right. So when you're interviewing people, you make it clear that you're not just any mediocre company to work for. It's no, you make it clear that you're going to take care of them, and you offer them something great, but you use the interview to also say I'm going to ask for something great too. Right. And you have a mutual commitment to giving something great, both parties.
Right.
Yeah.
I've been known to run a tight ship, and a lot of the other companies, that knew me over in Tuolumne County, that was the main thing. I mean, they all knew that I ran a tight ship. We expect a lot out of our employees only because we give a lot. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's it.
And it's not an easy job. It's actually deemed one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. Tree service and logging. And
where do you think that okay, so somebody who's never even trimmed a tree before, right? They're just a person, and then they hear that tree work is incredibly dangerous compared to most other jobs. What is it about tree service that's particularly dangerous?
What isn't?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sharp power tools, powerful power tools.
Yeah,
falling
everything
objects,
about it is
heights.
dangerous. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to be aware basically 100% of the time, and you always got to be on your game. If you think that it's something to play around with, then you're going to get hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's interesting. Like I'm picking up on your personality, like really quickly. Phrases like I run a tight ship, and then what's not dangerous about tree service, and like there's no pretty much margin for error, and it's kind of like, well, you're made for it, right? Does that make sense?
I guess I was made for it.
Yeah.
I enjoy it. Yeah.
Like some people just cannot handle the thought that they're constantly surrounded by danger. Like they don't want that. They want like the air conditioning and like the perfectly comfortable ergonomic chair, and everything around them is contributing to their like immediate comfort and like safety, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you're chopping down trees with like these incredibly powerful tools, and you got like your guys down there. Like that's a whole system that needs to be in place for, and then like not to mention not crushing the customer's house when you drop the tree.
There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely has to be well thought out, and if it's not, then there's margin for error. It's but there's also that fine line of, having fun with it too. If it's always, to the T constructed all the time, I mean, there's, you got to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it takes a special person to really get out there, enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do enjoy it, then you're more open to what needs to be done to get the job done right too.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't enjoy it, then you're going to have that frustration. And then again, there's margin for error. It's just like any job, any career.
Right.
The more you enjoy it, the more you're going to be susceptible for making sure that it's done right.
Mm-hmm.
So
aside from hiring, and when you think about business in general, now that you're a business owner, right, and you have been for 6 years almost, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is something that you've learned in these past 6 years? And it might not have anything to do with business, but like what have you learned because of owning the business? She can answer the question too. I don't mind.
Well, I've learned that it's a great responsibility, and there's that quote that says, "With great power comes great responsibility," and I'd say that there is a lot of that.
Mm.
You're a part of the community, and it's your responsibility to do things right and to do things honest,
mm-hmm.
And to take care of your fellow neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
So there's definitely that involved, and we take pride in doing that.
Right.
Our slogan is tree service driven by honesty and integrity, performance that you can trust,
mm-hmm.
and we do our best to stand by that. So
it's interesting now that you say that after, 20, 30 minutes in, I'm like, yeah, like just like sitting here talking for 30 minutes. I'm like, yeah, I think like that's so believable.
Oh, thank you.
That's
we try to stand by that, and I think that it's I've learned a great deal of being, how to be a part of our community, and to give what we have to offer, honestly,
right,
and fair.
Do you guys get a lot of questions from people in our community regarding fire safety in their properties?
We do, especially nowadays.
Right.
Yeah, there's been a lot of insurances that have been dropping homeowners left and right.
Mm-hmm. Do they come to you for help sometimes, like thinking that if you clear their property or something that they're going to somehow get their insurance back, and you're like, oh.
Well, sometimes that is the case. Like a lot of insurance companies will ask for the fire clearance in order for them to keep their insurance.
Okay.
And they're allotted a certain amount of time. And then within that time period, they get a hold of us or another company to come out and do the fire clearance for them. And there is that chance where they won't get to keep their insurance.
Right.
We've heard of those stories, but there is a good chance that they will.
Well, there's also the chance that even if they don't get to keep their insurance, they'll get to keep their house.
Exactly. It's always good to have that fire clearance anyways.
Yeah.
Like
it's not all about getting the checkbox on the paper. It's like, well, do you want your house? to be protected.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, if you do the proper fire clearance, I mean, you could get away without having insurance.
And do you guys do that? Or do you just specifically do like big tree jobs? Like, I don't know.
We do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We advertise for fire clearance as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually really enjoy those jobs.
Yeah.
As long as there's no poison oak.
Do you both get it?
Yeah, we do. I mean, I don't get it as bad as some of my employees, but my employees, they get it. And, you know, it's one of those things. I mean, we spent a lot of money on cortisone shots.
Wow.
Yeah. But it's all part of it.
It's worth it. Dude, poison oak is horrible.
Yeah.
It's bad.
Yeah, if I look at it, I have it. It's just how it goes.
Yeah.
And most summer, we have poison oak all summer. It's just what it is.
I feel like I get it if I weed eat sometimes. It's just like the spray.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
it
you
just sprays all over me.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the worst times I ever had it. I was weed eating in this big field, and there was this tiny little patch of poison oak, and it got in my mouth, and I had it all down in my throat. My whole tongue and mouth was swollen. I couldn't eat for a week and a half, and I was throwing up this. Excuse me, it's a little. But
you're like, COVID ain't.
It was bad. It was bad. I don't recommend it. Yeah.
So you enjoy doing the so other than the poison oak, you do out of all the different like actual job services that you offer, like is brush clearing one of your favorite? Did I hear that correctly? Or
fire clearance in a way where it has, you know, if we can kind of go through someone's forested area, thin out what needs to be thinned out and save what needs to be saved.
Is part of that limbing the trees up to a certain height?
Yep. Yeah, typically up to about 15 feet, something like that. But it's we like doing that kind of stuff. The whole brush, manzanita, and buckbrush type of stuff, we do that as well, but it's difficult in certain rocky areas. It can be hard.
Is that because of getting the machinery there? Yeah,
getting the machine out there and running chainsaws around a lot of rock is very difficult as well, too.
Right.
It can be done. It just makes it a little bit more difficult. So, but we definitely enjoy thinning out the forest in the way that you know, from our experience, is the best way to do it. You know, you save the dominant ones, and you go through, you thin out all the dead stuff, making sure that you have that spacing between each tree. You know, and you save some little ones for replenishing the large ones when they, you know, fail. And it's enjoyable because you can see, you know, the idea of how forest can look when it's taken care of.
Looks so beautiful.
Yeah, almost park-like. I've seen a couple of the neighbors up in Colfax have, you know, they take care of their property, and you see all this overgrown bramble, and then, you know, you cross the property line and it's like a park, and there's beautiful trees and pine needles on the ground.
They must have raked it.
Yeah, I mean, it looks that way, but you know, he drives his mower through it every January.
That was a joke, by the way. No forest raking. You gotta rake the forest.
Yeah, it's fun.
Are there any exciting stories in the past 6 years? Not bad ones, but either close calls that you're like, whew, like that's a story, or like it's not a trap. I promise. I'm not. I'm just like, I want a story. I'm like,
well, I have one, and it's actually pretty funny. It's a good indicator and some feedback on how adrenaline works. So we were taking down a large ponderosa pine that had been diseased by bark beetle, and it was over this house. I'd say the diameter of it was about 52 inches in diameter.
Ooh.
And
that's a big boy.
We got it down safely. Everything was going smooth. And at this time, we had an employee that liked to talk a lot. Not just about anything, but mostly about himself. So he was very he talked a lot about himself. Let's just say that. So we're sitting there and we're making our cuts on this log, and this is in Twainhart, and in Twainhart everything's downhill. All the driveways are downhill. You know, the whole landscape's downhill. There's houses on top of houses over there. You know, it's a little cabin community. And I'm thinking to myself as this guy is sitting there talking, I've done this and I've done that and I could do this and I could do that. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you sure could be spending a lot more time, using that rake or that chainsaw instead of telling me about what you could do. And so I'm getting a little bit frustrated, and I lost my concentration as I'm making this cut on this log, and I forgot to put chocks in front of it.
Okay.
So I'm making a cut on this, I think it's about an 8 to 10 foot section of log that's 52 inches in diameter. It's on this butt cut. And I lost my focus. Yeah. Because this guy was talking a lot. And I went through my cut. The log took off downhill.
So 10 foot section of 52 inch diameter.
Yep.
Wet. I mean, these trees are wet. Or was this one dead?
It was about halfway wet, so it wasn't
because the bark beetle killed it.
But I would say it weighed about 1,500 to 1,800 pounds, something like that.
So possibly a ton.
Yeah, somewhere around there. And it's taken off downhill. It's going about 10 to 15 miles an hour. Runs over my chainsaws and my gas can and all this stuff, and I'm running after this thing, and it jumps across the customer's driveway, and into the road. Thank goodness there was no cars coming.
It just wiped it out.
Yeah. Thank goodness there was no cars coming. I looked downhill in front of this log, this moving log.
Well, you weren't going to stop it, but if anything, you might have been able to tell somebody to get out of the way.
Exactly. Well, I'm chasing after it. I'm doing my best to stop it. I'm trying to get on the side of it and put my arm in front of it, and luckily I have my gloves on and my long sleeve on. As this log jumps across into the road, Angelina was on the phone in the chip truck dealing with some customer service, and she sees in her mirror a log rolling across the road, and then she sees me chasing after this thing. So then she jumps out of the truck and she starts chasing after me, and I'm like running down in front of this thing.
Right.
I look down, I see it's going into the neighbor's driveway, and everything's downhill.
Right. So unless there's something to stop it.
Unless there was something to stop it, then it was going to go into the neighbor's house, basically, because the way that their driveway was set up, it was level with their deck and into their living room.
Okay.
So it would have just ran right off of the driveway into their living room.
Right, just blasted right in.
It would have blasted right through. So all of a sudden, I just got this heap of adrenaline. I knew I had to stop this log. I jumped in front of this thing, and I laid down my arm. So I put my legs behind me. Okay. And I just laid my arm underneath it, and I just stood in front of it, and it slid me about 5-10 feet, but I was able to stop this thing just before it got to the deck.
Dude, I was not expecting the story to end with you stopping this log.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, you ever hear those stories of
you weren't worried about being crushed?
I was more worried about...
Well, you weren't thinking about that.
I wasn't thinking about that.
You were obviously just thinking about stopping it.
I was thinking about stopping this log.
But in hindsight, it's kind of like I never would have put myself in front of that log.
Well, it was crazy. It was probably, I mean, you've seen those good sized propane tanks.
Oh yeah.
It was about the size of that, maybe a little bit bigger.
I just know how heavy they get, man.
Yeah. Well, after we cut this, I was frustrated.
Well, maybe it was the technique was a huge part of it too, because a lot of that's rotational.
Slowing down the rotation.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So if you put your arm on it a certain way, it's less of you pushing the log against the uphill force as much as it is, like if you were to wrap a blanket around it, it just slows the rotational force more.
Right.
Like you kind of wrapped it up. Because you put your arms under it in a way.
I put one arm under it, and I kind of straddled the top with my other arm, and then I let the log basically slide me down this driveway as I'm putting all my force and pressure on my right arm to slow this thing down.
Oh my gosh.
It's like you see football players stopping each other.
Yeah.
It seemed like that. You were stopping the log from coming, like a football player. It seemed to me.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. But I'm just glad I stopped the log. I mean, whatever the force behind it, I mean, adrenaline or technique, it was one of our craziest stories. I'm walking up the hill.
How did you feel about that? Were you worried? You're worried for yeah.
I'm watching my husband stop a huge log going down, almost hitting the house. It was pretty amazing. Yeah.
Holy moly.
Our adrenaline was going. It was pretty amazing. You did good.
If I knew someone at the NFL, I'd hook you up, man. But I don't, so.
I wouldn't be interested.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. You'd be a good coach, though, I think.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, you could handle all the the detail work. There's a lot of players. You got other coaches you're working with. But it seems
I guess
like
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Sure. Always something to do.
Yeah.
Never a dull moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what I appreciate so much about tree service is it's always different. You're always dealing with different customers, different personalities, different jobs. I mean, it really challenges your techniques and your skills for sure.
So were you sore after that? Do you remember that?
My arm was for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My back was a little tweaked.
So it's like you mentioned the power of adrenaline.
Yeah.
That's freaking incredible. Yeah.
Well, after we cut it up, we had to cut it up into 16-inch firewood lengths.
Sure.
And it took every bit of 3 guys to move just one round. And that's when I realized that that adrenaline had something to do with it.
I just picked up earlier this season some ponderosa pine. I know like people are like, oh, don't burn it. I'm like, dude, I'm just going to let it dry. It'll be fine.
It is. It's fine.
Yeah.
You let it dry out. We use it. You clean your chimney once a year. You're fine.
Yeah. And that's, I mean, I got all sorts of people. Oh my gosh, you're going to burn pine? I'm like, it was free. I have stacks and stacks and stacks of this stuff because people are trying to get rid of it for free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's not going to be the same as oak or almond, but it will burn and produce heat.
Yeah. It leaves less a mess in your fireplace too. Oak leaves all the ash, and the pine burns so hot it leaves a lot less ash.
Mm-hmm.
So
the key is just drying it good.
Yeah.
Do you find you can get it done in a season? You can let's say you harvest it in March or April. You think it's going to be good by December?
Oh yeah.
Out in the sun.
Yeah, you split it.
Yeah.
Get it ready.
Yeah.
It dries out quick.
I feel like mine dried out in like a month.
Yeah.
Like I'm like touching it, and it feels like dry paper.
Yeah. Yeah, it dries out fast. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're heavy. And my point was, I took the tractor and I was like using the tractor to load it into the trailer, the rounds, because they were like probably 3-foot rounds, but they were fully wet. I mean.
Yeah. They're super heavy.
Yeah.
I have a chart.
I was lifting water is what I was really doing.
Yeah.
With a little bit of pine.
Pretty much. It's dense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's wet, it's dense for sure.
I'd say that's one of our most interesting, almost
so you get a lot
accidental stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you get a lot of free firewood, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Tons.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you even have central heat at your house?
No.
Yeah. Central what?
No. Yeah, it's a process. I mean, you move it a dozen times before you actually get to use it, but it's free.
Cool.
Yeah. It's all part of our hard labor.
Well, back to business talk. Where do you? I mean, I know things are probably slower than usual right now for a lot of reasons. There's a lot of people that are out of work, don't have money, they can't pay for anything. But this particularly hard time aside, where are you getting a lot of work from? You have a lot of word of mouth going on.
Yeah, there is
newspaper stuff. Like I don't know.
There is word of mouth. We have certain advertising signs up here and there throughout Calaveras and Nevada County, Placer and Nevada County.
Mm-hmm.
And, we have our website up that targets the local areas. And we're not in the yellow pages.
The what?
The yellow pages? I know, right? Yeah, the what?
You mean Google?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
So it's a lot of it's word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. I want to come up with like a bulletproof word of mouth strategy. Like actually, I don't think people think of word of mouth as a strategy. It's a legitimate strategy, especially if you deploy it.
It really is
strategically.
Some of that's our best customers. I mean, our best business is word of mouth because referrals are more trustworthy than finding someone online.
Yes. So. Yeah, because the reputation is built into the lead.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's nice. I find that too with so I photograph weddings as now and then. As like people are like, hey, Cody photographed my wedding.
Oh, cool.
And then so maybe hire him. And then I do their job, and it's like it's almost like a good way to find a chain that's and the links are good people, like good customers. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Where you're like, well, you were a good customer, and then now you gave me somebody, and it's like, because we have a good relationship, you're not just gonna like give me a bridezilla for my next wedding. You know what I mean? Or like the people who you are friends with are going to be at least similar to you.
Yeah.
And you're cool and good and easy to deal with and fun. And so like the next person that you refer to me is probably going to have some of those traits.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a win-win situation because the customer is going to trust their friend, and based off of their knowledge and their relationship with each other and the experience that they had with us, and then they're going to put their trust into that and hopefully get the same thing, which more than likely they will.
Right.
And for us, it's, we're happy with that customer. They're nice enough to give us a referral. And more than likely, the relationship that they have with their friend is going to end up being a similar relationship that we have with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it builds this clientele, builds a really good clientele base because it's all that personal referral basis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can really appreciate that a lot, actually. Are you guys active on the internet much with, like, let's say different social media platforms or even just a Google listing? Or do you have do you more heavily just rely on like word of mouth?
We just recently got our website up and going in the area. We had a little bit of mishap transferring it over here to Placer, Nevada County, and we did the Google listing. That was all just recently within the past couple weeks. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
See what that brings in.
Yeah, the Google listing, treat it like a Facebook page where you're posting a lot of pictures to it, and that will reward you.
That's what we were told too.
Yeah.
I mean, just basically, it's got to have a lot of activity, and the more activity on it, the better it is. And we have a lot of pictures. I mean, we have a lot of good videos, a lot of good pictures, a lot of stuff to put on there.
Right.
And we do our best to tell our customers if they have any good feedback to put on there.
Yeah. That's big too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because they'll find you Google searching. And if you have a lot of 5-star reviews, that's just like a major, because then you can get at least people who are not, I mean, you're always going to get the people who are like, oh, I have 20 bids. And you're like, okay, wow. Like you obviously want the cheapest service, which is not always the best. It might not be in your best interest even.
Well, that's what I tell my customers too. Like if you're looking for the cheapest, I'm not the guy.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for good quality, then you get what you pay for with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your most common jobs? Well, does it change seasonally?
Yeah, typically.
Yeah.
Fire clearance jobs seems to be more in the time that you don't want to be doing it.
Because it's already...
Because it's there. It's in people's faces. They start realizing, hey, it's hot. There is, look at all this stuff that could potentially catch on fire. And then that's when we get phone calls. We'll get, once in a while, we'll get fire clearance jobs in the rainy seasons, but not so much. Typically, during fall and winter, we'll do a lot of trimming jobs because that's when we schedule in our trimming jobs because you don't want to be trimming on conifers or certain types of trees that do better in the fall time for being trimmed because when they're dormant, they have a better chance of healing and it doesn't send them into shock and it's better for the tree. So like if you trim them in the summertime and when they're fully developed and their leaves are out, then they could be they're more susceptible to bugs and fungus and stress and all that good stuff.
I just learned something about trees today.
Oh, good.
You can put a tree into shock.
You sure can.
Wow.
Yep.
Can you do that just by limbing it too much?
There's several different ways you could send a tree into shock. Definitely by limiting it too much. And it really depends on the tree too.
Okay.
Like our willow tree, and I kind of made the mistake of this. We had a little fish pond next to our house, and it was collecting a lot of mosquitoes. And we decided to take it out, and our willow tree was right next to it. And I just didn't think about it because I was so focused on getting rid of the mosquitoes.
Right. There's always a willow tree by a pond too.
Yep. Well, I took away its water source and it
Yeah.
died like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Within a matter of 2 months, it was dead.
Wow. It's funny now that you
and
mention it, there's always a willow tree by a pond.
Mm-hmm.
They're never not by a pond.
Yep. So it depends on what kind of tree it is.
Yeah.
And, you got to really know the proper way of pruning and the techniques and procedures to take care of each tree.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to it.
I feel like I met the real experts today. I'm serious. Like if I ever need tree work, I'm like calling Jeremiah and Angelina for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
That's great. Well, do you have anything, Charlie, that you'd like to?
No, I mean, I think it was a pretty great story, and it's just your guys' passion and expertise really shines through whenever we're, throughout this whole conversation. It's like you guys obviously know what you are talking about, and you obviously care very much about your customers. Like you really, above all things, want them to have the best tree service that they can get, and you want to be the ones to provide that. It's not like, we're gonna cut corners here just because of this one job. It's like no. I mean,
we do
just
it right.
the feeling we get from you guys is we're gonna do it right every time, no matter what. So,
thank you. That's our goal. We like to go above and beyond.
What's the best way for somebody to get in contact with you guys?
Typically, since our website is up and going, probably just look us up online now.
Is it? What's the URL? Is it elementstreeservice.com?
Elementstreeservices.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elementstreeservices.com.
Yep.
Yeah, we'll put that in the links in the in the description of the podcast.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
We appreciate this opportunity and the time that you guys allotted for us to be here. I mean, this is nice.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing, to be honest with you. Like, I just like to talk to people and try to learn things from people and kind of give them an opportunity to, we like to say we help publicize and help tell stories, and that's just like a natural opportunity that we can do, or perform.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah,
So.
definitely appreciated.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for being on the show.
Thank you.
That's it. Let's do some fist bumps.
All right.
Bow, bow, power. That was like a power trio fist bump. I like that.
Power tree. Oh.
Oh.
nice.